Discovered in her mom's driveway. The hidden truth that shattered her life forever. Jess Thompson had always lived in a world painted with shadows. The kind that crept into corners and filled the spaces where sunlight struggled to reach. For 25 years, the quiet suburban streets of her childhood had been her canvas. But today, something darker lurked beneath the surface. The crisp afternoon air was achingly still as Jess knelt down to tidy up the driveway, her mind buzzing with the weight of expectations and dreams that felt just out of reach. She noticed a weathered box half buried beneath gravel, almost as if it were waiting for her. Her heart raced as she unearthed it. The worn would cool against her trembling fingers. Opening the box felt like peeling back layers of time. Inside lay stacks of yellowed letters and tarnished military medals, their edges rough against her palm. Jess's breath caught in her throat. These weren't just relics from the past. They were pieces of her father, a man she had idealized ever since the day he was declared a war hero, taken too soon. Yet, with every letter she unfolded, a tide of emotions washed over her, each word revealing a truth that sent chills down her spine. Her father, a celebrated soldier, had been entwined in a tragic crime that turned his legacy against him and shook their family to its core. The realization hit her hard. All those bedtime stories and proud moments she shared with her mother, Betty, suddenly felt tainted. The woman she had lent on all her life, who had fought tooth and nail to raise her alone after losing Jess's father in the war. How could she have hidden this from her? Jess clenched the letters in anger, battling against the rising tide of betrayal. The world felt heavy, like a storm cloud ready to burst, and not knowing who to blame first made it worse. And the days that followed, tension crackled in their little home. With every word exchanged, old wounds reopened, and resentment seeped into their once solid bond. "You knew," Jess shouted one evening, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You let me grow up believing he was this hero when he wasn't." Betty stood stoic, hurt glimmering in her eyes, unable to articulate the complexity of her past. Jess felt unmoored, her dreams of becoming an artist overshadowed by the enormity of her father's hidden deeds. And yet, amid the chaos of her thoughts, a spark of defiance ignited within her. Wasn't it time she began to reclaim her story, reflecting the truth of her reality? Jess rallied her neighbors, gathering those who had walked similar paths of struggle, fueled by dreams too large for a small community that often dismissed them. Together, they dared to challenge the injustices woven into their lives, exposing truths that shaped them. Her father's missteps could become their rallying cries for recognition, not shame. Just as Jess began to carve out her place in this newfound fight, an art gallery reached out, inviting her to showcase her work. But with that opportunity came a weighty decision, one that risked further estrangement with her mother. Could she choose to embrace her father's legacy, however flawed, or would the truth always cast a shadow? Before she could answer, a final letter emerged, one that promised to unravel everything she thought she knew. What secrets lay within? Would love triumph over betrayal, or were they trapped forever beneath the weight of the past? Jess stood, heart pounding, teetering on the brink of truth and deception. The future awaited, but at what cost? Jess felt the letter's edges, its paper crinkled and stained with age. With a sharp breath, she hesitated. Was she ready to unearth yet another piece of her father's shattered legacy? It felt as if every moment she spent holding onto this crumpled artifact was a step deeper into a chasm of uncertainty. Yet, her heart tugged. She had to know. She unfolded the letter, each crack echoing like a heartbeat against the quiet. The familiar scrawl swirled on the yellowed page, and she recognized it instantly. "My dearest Betty," it began, a simple salutation that now felt so heavy. As she read, her father's words painted vivid images in her mind, a mixture of love and regret spilling onto the page. He spoke of a war that had shifted his soul and of decisions he wished he could reverse. He wrote of her, of the daughter he never got to hold, and his longing to be a better man than fate allowed. It was then that Jess stumbled upon the deepest secret. Her father confessed to a choice that stripped him of every medal he wore. He had gotten wrapped up in a dark moment, blinded by fear and the chaos around him. "I made a choice that day," he wrote, and I don't ask for your forgiveness, but one day I hope you can understand. She felt the world tilt beneath her. This wasn't just a confession. It was an exploration of his humanity, his flaws raw and exposed. Jess could barely breathe. The rage she had held tightly began to unravel, revealing the complexity of love and loss in one tragic package. "How could you keep this from me?" she whispered, half pleading with the ghost of her father, feeling his absence more keenly than ever. She imagined her mother reading this letter long ago, tears staining the very paper now in her hands. When she finally looked up from the letter, she found her mother standing in the doorway. Betty's face was a canvas of pain and disbelief. Time stood still as they faced each other, a standoff of heartache and unspoken truths. "Just please," Betty's voice cracked. "I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" Jess shouted, hurt and confusion swirling like a storm. "By lying to me? By keeping the memory of your father alive, the good parts?" Betty's eyes were misty, each word a defense against the walls they had built around their feelings. "I wanted you to grow up believing in something good, something worth holding on to. But it was all a lie." Jess couldn't contain the fire burning inside her anymore. "What kind of foundation is that?" A single tear rolled down Betty's cheek, and Jess felt it crack something deep within her too. "Sometimes, the truth is too heavy," her mother whispered. "I thought it was better for you to grow up loving him without knowing." Jess didn't know how to respond. The weight of this moment felt enormous. Could she forgive her mother for the years of deception? Could she find a way to forgive her father too? The shadows in her heart barely allowed room for light. Yet here was a sliver of hope if she could understand their choices. Maybe she could understand herself as dim early evening light spilled across the living room. Jess could finally see them both. Flawed, human, imperfect. Would she turn this pain into her art or seek to rewrite it altogether? Just as she was about to speak, her phone buzzed sharply with a message from the gallery. A reminder. A deadline. Her fingers trembled over the screen as she opened it and read the words. "We need your confirmation ASAP for the exhibit." Jess glanced at her mother, uncertainty heavy on her chest. They stood in fraught silence, the weight of the moment clinging to them both, filled with questions. What would she choose? And beneath it all, a thought echoed: could she transform her father's shame into her own strength? With the weight of 2 generations of secrets swirling around her, Jess felt the urgency swell. What was her choice going to be? Jess's heart raced. The gallery deadline hung in the air, taunting her with every beat. As she glanced back at the crumpled letter on the table, a flicker of determination sparked within her. But her mother's tear-streaked face weighed heavily on her mind. "Mom," she started, but the words died in her throat like a promise she couldn't keep. The urgency of the moment wrapped around her, tighter than the wires of a guitar she used to play. A strange tension filled the living room, floating somewhere between love and disappointment. "Jess, please," Betty said, her voice low but packed with desperation. "We can work through this together. Just let me explain." "Explain what?" Jess interrupted, her frustration bubbling back to the surface. "How you kept me in the dark. How I don't even know who my father was." Each word cut like glass, sharp and piercing. The more she spoke, the more she felt a tightness in her throat. It was as if all the unspoken feelings were forcing their way out, demanding to be heard. "I didn't want you to idolize a man you didn't know," Betty finally confessed, the anguish breaking through the controlled facade she had maintained for years. "Your father, he was complicated. He wasn't a villain, but he wasn't a saint either." The admission hung between them, vibrating with unacknowledged pain. Jess chewed on her lower lip, disappointment mingling with a flicker of compassion for the woman who had loved her fiercely yet had chosen to shield her from the truth. "Maybe I needed to know the truth about him," Jess replied, softer now, almost a whisper. "Still, I get it, I really do. But how can I honor his memory if I don't even know who he really was? How can I show my art to the world if it's built on lies?" Betty hesitated, her eyes searching Jess's face. "What do you want to do?" she murmured, the walls of her defenses starting to crumble. "I don't know." Jess sighed, running a hand through her tangled hair. But it has to be real. It needs to be raw, Mom. I can't copy someone else's version of my life. I just want to feel everything. As she spoke, the sunlight from the setting sun poured through the window, casting golden tones across the room. Jess thought about the art exhibition, about how she had poured her soul into her pieces, capturing fragments of happiness, heartbreak, and everything in between. But even now, with her father's shadow looming, she couldn't help but wonder. Could there be beauty in his flaws? Could she weave their stories, tangled and full of hurt, into something powerful that honored who they were, even if it meant revealing stark truths? Maybe I could use all of this, the pain, the disappointment, the loss. Jess's voice gained strength. Maybe this is what inspires true art. But are you ready to go there? Betty asked, her brow furrowed with worry. There's a lot you might dig up. I have to be, Jess replied, her gaze fierce as she absorbed her mother's concern. If I don't, I'll be just recycling pain instead of owning it. Jess's phone buzzed again, shattering the silence once more. The gallery's message seemed urgent, relentless, and there was no escaping the weight it carried. Mom, I need to think, she said, her heart in turmoil, trying to find some clarity amidst the chaos. I have decisions to make, and I can't let fear hold me down anymore. But before they could delve deeper into these revelations, a loud knock echoed through the hallway, shaking Jess from her thoughts. Everyone in the house went still. Who could that be? Jess whispered, a sense of dread pooling in her stomach. Betty shook her head, confusion flashing in her eyes. I don't know. With the unexpected visitor at the door, Jess felt that this moment might lead to another truth, one that could forever alter the course of her life. Swallowing hard, Jess took a step towards the door, both anticipation and apprehension swirling within her. What secrets could lie on the other side? Jess hesitated at the door, her heart thundering in her chest. The knock came again, more insistent this time. She exchanged a quick glance with her mom, who had frozen in place, her eyes wide and uncertain. Did they both feel it? The weight of the unknown creeping into their home. Taking a deep breath, Jess grasped the doorknob and turned it. The door creaked open, and there stood a figure framed by the dying light of the sunset. Jess squinted, trying to process the image before her. It was a man, tall and rugged, with deep-set eyes that seemed to carry stories of their own. His expression morphed from uncertainty to recognition as their gazes locked. Jess, he said, his voice gruff yet gentle. I'm here for you. What's going on? Jess stammered, her stomach churning. Who are you? The man shifted on his feet, the tension in his posture revealing his nerves. I'm sorry for just showing up like this, he continued, glancing at Betty before meeting Jess's gaze again. I'm here to talk about your father. A blanket of disbelief wrapped around her. Jess closed the door slightly, but her curiosity wrestled with fear. My father? She echoed, her voice trembling. You know him? I knew him, the man replied, a shadow of something akin to regret passing over his face. But it's more complicated than that. Betty stepped closer, her expression a mix of shock and protectiveness. You need to leave, she demanded, her tone firm. We don't want any trouble. Please, the man implored, his eyes locking onto Betty's. I know about the secret. I came to tell Jess the truth. She deserves that. Jess's head spun. Could it be? A truth buried under layers of uncertainty, waiting to be unearthed? She felt an involuntary pull towards the man, her curiosity igniting like a match struck in a dark room. Why now? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Why do I need to hear this from you? Because you're running out of time, he said, his gaze flickering with urgency. This is about your gallery, your future. You need to know where you came from if you want to move forward. A heavy silence filled the room as Jess weighed his words. She felt the stakes growing higher, the weight of her impending exhibition blending with the weight of her father's shadow. What do you know? She pressed, desperation escaping into her tone. More than you think, he said quietly. But you have to listen. It's about your father and the life he left behind. His voice softened. It's also about who you are and who you're meant to be. Jess was taken aback, her mind racing, Her whole life had been defined by the emptiness of not knowing. Could this man truly hold the key to unlock all that lay buried? Betty's voice trembled as she spoke. You can't trust him, Jess. Please just let me hear him out, Jess interjected, her resolve building. She felt empowered, a promise to unearth the truth bubbling to the surface. I need to know. With an almost imperceptible nod, Jess moved to the side, allowing the stranger to step into the house. As he crossed the threshold, Jess felt a shift in the atmosphere. This would be a conversation that might break open old wounds or stitch new beginnings. Before we start, he said, glancing at them both, I need you to know this one to be easy. Nothing ever is, Jess replied, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. And as they settled in, she braced for the impact of secrets long buried. What would the truth reveal? And would she find the strength to embrace it? The air crackled with expectation, and for the first time, Jess felt a flicker of hope dancing on the horizon. What awaited her as the layers of her father's past began to unfurl? The room felt charged with emotion, the air thick with unspoken words. Jess motioned for the man to sit, her heart racing as she took her place opposite him, her mother hovering nearby, arms crossed protectively. Okay, Jess said, trying to sound steady but feeling a tremor in her voice. Tell me what you know. I need to understand. The man cleared his throat, his gaze shifting between Jess and Betty. My name is Noah. Your father, he was a part of something much larger than either of you realized. Jess frowned, knowing so little about her father. The fragments of memories she held were all tied to whispers and shadows. What do you mean? What was he part of? Noah hesitated, searching for the right words. It's a story of choices and sacrifices. He left a life behind, one that he didn't want for you or your mother. But it wasn't straightforward. Jess felt a biting pain in her stomach. So he didn't just disappear? There was a reason he left? Yes, Noah replied, his voice softening. And that reason involves more than just him. It involves people who wanted to keep you safe from a past they believed would haunt you. Betty's voice was sharp, cutting through the tension. This is nonsense. You don't know what you're saying. No, Jess countered, feeling the weight of the moment. Please just let him explain. With a reluctant nod, Betty stepped back, the conflict settling into a tight ball in her chest. Noah took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. Your father had a decision to make, a choice to protect you both. He got involved with people that, well, they were dangerous. Not for you directly, but the implications of their world. The possibilities. His voice trailed off as if the weight of the situation was too heavy to bear. Jess's pulse quickened, images flashing in her mind of the life they had led. Simple, safe, and blissfully unaware of danger lurking just out of sight. What did he do? She asked, her heart pounding. Your father helped take down a ring of people involved in illegal art forgery. He was witness to things that would have put your lives in jeopardy if they knew you existed. A ripple of disbelief washed over Jess. Art forgery? Was that the hidden life her father had led? But why not tell me that? Why didn't he just come back? He thought it would be safer for you, Noah explained. But there are connections that are hard to sever. People don't just let go. He knew he couldn't be a part of your life while keeping you safe, and that decision tore him apart. Jess felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, grappling with the news. It was a truth she had longed for, yet one that shattered her view of her father into pieces. And now, what has happened to him? Is he still safe? Noah's expression darkened. That's what I came to tell you. Your father, he didn't just disappear because he wanted to. He's still out there. But he's in trouble, and it's more dangerous than you can imagine. For a moment, Jess felt the room spin. Her father was alive, but that didn't bring the relief she expected. She was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready for the plunge into uncertainty. What do we do? Jess whispered, the weight of the unknown pressing down on her shoulders. Noah reached across the table, his hands steady and warm. We unravel this together. But you need to be prepared. The truth doesn't always lead where we hope. Looking at his steady gaze, Jess felt the flicker of hope turn into a blazing fire. Then let us do it. I want to find my father. As the conversation deepened, Jess felt a stirring inside her, excitement intertwined with fear. She was on the brink of a discovery that could lead to family, danger, and everything she had ever wanted. But just as the words began to flow, a sudden crash echoed outside, shattering the fragile moment. What was that? Betty cried, rushing to the window. Jess's heart sank. Something was coming, something she never expected. And it felt dangerously close. All three of them turned towards the door, and Jess's breath hitched in her throat. What awaited them on the other side? Jess held her breath as she and the others stood frozen, ears straining to catch sounds drifting from outside. The sunlight, once warm and inviting, now felt cold and harsh against her skin. She sensed a shift, a quickening in the air as Noah's usually calm demeanor transformed into something sharp and attentive. "Stay here," he instructed, his voice low but firm. He moved toward the door, every fiber of his being focused. Jess wanted to protest, but the look on his face made her instinctively follow him. Betty's hands were knotted at her sides, her uncertainty painting her features in deep concern. "Noah, you don't know what's out there," she implored. "Exactly," Noah replied, not turning back. "That's why I need to see." Jess looked back at her mother, a silent plea in her eyes. Betty's face was a mix of fear and defiance, a reflection of Jess's own turmoil. The question burned inside her. What if it was related to her father? What if someone dangerous was closing in on their fragile peace? Noah opened the door, and the sound of shuffling feet echoed from the driveway. Jess squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for whatever nightmare was about to reveal itself. When she opened them, it was chaos. Several men stood huddled outside, faces tense, clothes dark, an air of foreboding that made Jess's heart race. She could sense hostility brewing among them, the kind of feelings that pulled at the edges of her small, safe life. "Noah!" one of the men yelled, his voice cutting through the silence. "We need to talk. Right now." "Noah, who are they?" Jess whispered, her voice tremoring with a swift motion. Noah pushed Jess behind him. The air thickened with tension, electric and raw. "What do you want?" He shot back, standing tall, defiant. "They know you're here." Another man chimed in, his eyes darting around, scanning for anything amiss. "You need to leave. They're coming." Jess felt her stomach twist. Who was coming? Thoughts of her father flooded her mind like a crashing wave. Was this the same danger Noah had hinted at? She peered around Noah's shoulder, desperate for answers, for reassurance that everything would be okay. Betty stepped forward, trying to protect her daughter. "You need to go. We don't want any trouble." "No trouble will come unless you ignore us," the first man snapped. Every word was laced with urgency. "Your father failed to bury the truth, and now we're here to clean it up." The coldness of his declaration wrapped around Jess like ice. The truth? Her heart hammered as pieces fell into place. There were things her father never protected them from, and now they were playing out right in front of her. "Mom!" Jess whispered, her voice breaking. "What does that mean?" Betty's eyes widened, and for a split second, Jess saw fear breach her mother's facade. "We can't let them in, Jess. We have to protect each other." "Noah," Jess pleaded, searching his face for some glimmer of hope. Before he could answer, loud footsteps echoed from the side of the house, violent and determined. Jess turned her head, realization dawning. "They're surrounding us." Noah's demeanor shifted. He turned fiercely toward the men. "We won't let you hurt them," he declared, stepping protectively in front of Jess and her mother. But Jess could feel the weight of the situation mounting. People were converging, motives twisted like branches in a storm. She had just gotten a taste of the truth about her father, and now danger was crashing down around her. In that moment, an idea sparked inside her. "We can't let this end us," she declared, her voice steady, biting through the fear. "We need to move. Now." She grabbed her mother's arm, a fire igniting within. Together, they had to face whatever lay beyond the door because the truth surrounding her father was worth fighting for. Even if it didn't guarantee safety. As Jess took that first step forward, every pulse within her screamed for answers, and she knew, whatever awaited them outside, It would unravel what had been hidden for far too long. But would they be ready for what would come next? Jess's heart raced as she moved toward the door. Each step felt heavier, the world around her narrowing into a tunnel of chaos and uncertainty. Betty gripped Jess's arm tightly, pulling her back for a fleeting moment, but Jess looked into her mother's eyes, silently urging her to trust. "Mom, whatever this is, we face it together," she said, trying to steady the quiver in her voice. Betty's grip loosened slightly, a flicker of determination crossing her features, though fear still danced in her eyes. Noah shot them both a glance, tension written all over him. "We need to get out of here before they come in." "Stay close," he ordered, each word emanating a sense of urgency. Overhead, the sun flickered as dark clouds rolled in, as if sensing the storm brewing below. Jess felt the air grow heavier, charged with the weight of what was about to happen. She reached for Noah's hand, feeling a strange comfort in his strong grip, the resolve within her building with each passing moment. As they stepped onto the porch, the group of men shifted, their eyes narrowing as if assessing every movement. The leader spoke again. "Noah, this isn't a game. We have to talk, and it can't be here." In that instant, Jess scanned the driveway, her eyes sweeping over the jagged gravel and scattered leaves. It all felt so mundane, yet shadowed by the tension of the moment. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, pulling her strength into the question. The men exchanged glances, their expressions shifting, but it was the leader who stepped forward again, his face barely illuminated by the dusky light. "Your father took something important, something that needs to be returned." Each word was heavy, laden with unspoken threats. "What was it?" Jess felt a surge of defiance. "He took nothing from you, didn't he?" Another man challenged, stepping closer. "Maybe you should ask him if you can find him." The rawness of his words sent a shiver down Jess's spine. What did they know? Panic bubbled beneath her surface, and she glanced at Noah. He wore a mask of determination, but she saw the flicker of fear in his eyes too. "Mom, what is happening?" Jess' voice cracked as she turned back to Betty, searching for answers, for anything solid to hold on to. Betty hesitated, and in that moment, the tight-knit bond she had forged with Jess felt threatened. "I thought we could keep it from you for a while longer." "You're not ready." The words hung between them like a dark cloud, suffocating. "No, I need to know," Jess shouted, the urgency spilling out in raw emotion. How could they face whatever was coming if they weren't all on the same page? The leader's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. "Time's up. We won't let you all walk away without answers." The sound of shouts erupted from the back, other figures advancing, drawn by the heat of the confrontation. Jess felt the grip on her arm tighten as Noah urged her to move. Just then, Jess saw it. A glimmering object on the ground, half buried among the leaves. It didn't belong in the driveway. "What's that?" she said, pointing at it. "No," Betty exclaimed, but Jess was already moving closer, her curiosity overpowering her caution. As she leaned down, she uncovered the object, a locket stained and old, yet still beautiful. Jess's breath caught in her throat. Something told her it held secrets that could alter everything she thought she knew. That a shadow fell over her, and she felt the weight of eyes on her. One of the men moved toward her, his expression unreadable, but Jess wouldn't back down. "What is this?" she demanded, holding the locket in the palm of her hand, the truth carving its path closer. "Put it down now," he barked, but Jess held tightly, feeling its power urge her on. "Jess, no. We don't know what we're dealing with," Noah shouted, panic breaking through. But Jess was no longer listening. In that moment she had crossed a line. Whatever lay ahead had drawn her in, and she sensed that in that locket lay the key to everything. Yet, just as clarity began to wash over her, a sudden roar crackled from the darkness, drowning out all thoughts. What had she awakened? The ground trembled, shaking Jess from her thoughts. The roar split the air, resonating deep inside her chest like a thunderclap. It felt like the world itself was warning them, the air thick with foreboding, tinged with something otherworldly. "No, get back," Noah shouted, pulling Jess away from the men, away from the locket. But Jess stood frozen, the cold metal in her palm sending jolts of energy through her fingers. She wasn't ready to let it go, not now that it seemed to pulse with answers, an unsolved puzzle wrapped in history. The men advanced, their steps encroaching more aggressively. Jess heard Betty gasp, a sound filled with dread. "Jess, please. We need to leave now." The leader of the men was staring at Jess now, his expression a mix of rage and desperation. "You don't understand what you're holding. It's bigger than you, bigger than all of this." "What do you know?" Jess shot back, her voice wavering but fierce. "What's so important about a locket?" It was a question drenched in defiance, masking the fear swirling in her gut as she clutched the object tighter. A flicker of memory sparked within her, a fleeting image of her father, older now, his laughter echoing in her mind. What secrets had he kept? She felt the air lifting, shifting around them, as if the locket was alive and wanted to tell her everything there was to know. "Jess, move!" Noah yelled, pulling her again, making her step back as the shouts from the back grew nearer, a mix of panic and confusion, swelling like a tide. But the pull of the locket was like gravity. It anchored her, rooted her to the spot despite the growing menace surrounding her. The leader stepped forward again, a wild glint in his eyes. "Once you have it, you can't go back. You have to decide now." Her heart battered against her ribcage, each pulse screaming for her to choose wisely. In the fractious silence around them, she stole a glance at Betty, whose face was pale, fear etched into her features. This was it, a choice that could change everything. "Is this about Dad?" Jess asked, her voice cracking as it broke through the chaos. "Where is he?" The man faltered, and for a brief moment, Jess saw a softening in his eyes, as if somewhere beneath the surface lay a truth he was reluctant to share. "He knew things that put you all in danger. You need to understand that locket is more than just jewelry. No, it's not just that." Betty suddenly interrupted, her voice rising with unexpected intensity. "Jess, your father was involved in something dangerous. He wanted to protect you, to keep you away from all of this. The locket, it holds a part of our family's history, our past." Jess's eyes widened with realization and confusion. The clash of her mother's protective instinct and the ruthless desperation of the men spun in her mind like a dervish, leaving her breathless. "Then let me see it," she demanded, lifting the locket higher. "Let me know what it means." "Stop," the leader shouted again, desperation coloring his urgency. But Jess was done with being cast aside. Suddenly, a flash of light erupted from the locket, blinding her momentarily. She stumbled back, feeling Noah steady her. But the moment his hand touched her shoulder, a surge of warmth flooded through her, connecting, grounding, igniting something deep within her. As the light dwindled, she found herself staring at the locket, which now glowed faintly, revealing intricate designs she hadn't noticed before. The air shifted again, humming with energy, and every fiber in Jess's being screamed for her to understand. In that moment, she realized this was just the beginning. Whatever they were about to unleash would reverberate far beyond the confines of their quiet life and test their bonds like never before. But before she could speak again, another roar cut through the air, this time closer, louder, a promise of chaos to come. What else was lurking in the shadows, waiting to break free? The roar hit them again, this time deafening. The ground felt alive, vibrating right beneath Jess's feet. It pulled her focus back to the moment at hand, slipping away from the dreamlike pull of the locket. She blinked, her thoughts scattering as the urgency of their situation clawed back to the forefront. "Jess, let us go," Noah urged, his grip tightening on her arm. With a flicker of defiance, Jess took a step closer to the leader, who stood there seething with impatience. She couldn't shake the need for clarity. "You talk about danger. If it's about my father, I need to know now," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The leader's eyes narrowed, uncertainty flitting across his face. "Knowing the truth will come at a cost. Are you ready to pay it?" A flash of doubt cracked through Jess, mixing with her resolve. "What does that even mean?" "Everything you think you know could change in an instant. This locket, it's not just a family heirloom. It's a key, and keys unlock doors that can't be closed again." His words dripped with foreboding, and for a second, Jess felt the weight of his gaze digging deep. Noah shuffled closer, a protective presence at her side. Jess, we have to think this through. We can't. Just before he could finish, another tremor shook the ground, followed by the sound of splintering wood and the screech of tires skidding to a halt nearby. A cacophony of voices erupted in the distance. The men behind the leader fanned out, eyes scanning toward the sounds. Panic surged through the air like the smell of smoke. In that moment, Jess dropped her gaze to the locket, its glow pulsating, now brighter against the chaos. Something is coming, she murmured. The locket responded, a warm, electric energy thrumming against her palm, as if it understood what was happening and was somehow preparing her. Jess, we need to go, Betty cried out, her voice breaking through the ringing in Jess's ears. No, Jess shouted back, clenching her fingers around the locket. You don't get it. This could lead us to Dad. A loud crash echoed from a direction they hadn't considered, drawing their attention to a figure emerging from the trees. It was unclear, but the air felt heavy with the promise of conflict. Jess's heart raced. What if it was someone looking for her father? Or something more sinister? The leader stepped in front of her, shielding Jess from whatever was approaching. This is the moment. If you take the step forward, things will change forever. Jess, you could be the one to finish what your father started. The stranger began to come into view, a shadowy outline against the encroaching twilight. Jess felt a sickening mixture of dread and anticipation. This entity could reveal everything, or it could lead to disaster. Noah's voice cut through, firm and concerned. Jess, this is insane. We have to decide what we're going to do together. As the figure stepped closer, recognizable features sharp against the evening light, Jess felt the weight of 1,000 moments hanging in the air. Time extended in that heartbeat, and for a breath, she swayed between two paths. Are you ready for the truth? She whispered to herself. The locket shimmered deeply, and she thought she heard a whisper on the edge of her consciousness, urging her to act. Suddenly, the figure spoke, a voice grating yet familiar. Jess, it's time to wake up. Was this the truth she'd been searching for? Or would it only lead to more chaos? For each second that passed, the answer seemed more elusive. With her heart thundering in her chest, she took a step forward, the pull of the locket guiding her. In that instant, she knew there was no turning back. The shadows of the past were closing in, and perhaps it was time to face whatever darkness awaited them all. What truth lay ahead, craving to be unearthed? Jess took a deep breath, the air charged with an electricity she couldn't ignore. She could see the figure emerging from the shadows, a mix of familiarity and fear pulling at her heart. As he came into focus, Jess's breath caught. Dad? The words slipped out, trembling on her lips. The moment hung in suspense, every pair of eyes locked on the man before them, waiting for some form of recognition. Jess, he said, his voice a low rumble, haunted yet warm. I'm here. I came back for you. Tears prickled at the corners of Jess's eyes. Was this real? Could it really be him after all these years? The past blurred with the present, and the locket pulsed within her hand, as if it sensed his presence. Why now? You left. Her words came out in an avalanche of frustration and confusion, mixing with longing and anger. You didn't just disappear. You chose to walk away. The group of men grew tense as Jess's father raised a hand, silencing the impending storm. I had to protect you. What I was involved with was bigger than anyone could imagine. Dangerous people wanted you both gone. Gone? Betty's voice cut through, shaking but fierce. And you thought leaving us was protecting us? I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you safe, he replied, his gaze fierce and unyielding. I took on a burden, one that I thought I could shield you from, but it has come back. Recognition flickered in Jess's mind. Then she glanced down at the locket. This locket, what does it mean? Why did you leave it behind? I thought if you ever found it, you'd be ready, he said, his eyes softened. Ready to understand the choices that led me away. The anger, the shame. I needed you to have agency over your life. Jess's heart raced. So we could live in ignorance? Carry on as if you didn't leave us with a hole in our hearts? Jess, let me finish. He stepped forward, hands reaching out as if to grasp her. It's time to spill the truth, and that locket has a key role. You're stronger than pain. I know that now. Noah, standing protectively at her side, nudged Jess's shoulder gently. This isn't just about him anymore. We need to listen. The chaos surrounding them simmered down as the leader of the men observed intently, the tension shifting into something tentative, even vulnerable. Jess felt the ground beneath her shift. Tell me everything, she demanded, her voice steady, her resolve solidifying. Her father held her gaze, deep lines woven into his expression. Years ago, I stumbled into something murky, an art forgery ring, tangled with lives destroyed beneath its weight. I got too close. Jess felt the pieces of her existence click together. This was it, the connection she had been searching for. You were protecting us from it? Yes, he hesitated, his voice dropping to a whisper. But in that decision, I lost my way, lost who I wanted to be. The locket contains evidence of my choices, a map of sorts to the truth. As long as you hold it, you can find a way to mend the past if you're willing to take that risk. Jess's fingers clenched around the locket. This path could lead to redemption or deeper despair. She could feel the gravity of her family's legacy trembling at the edge of her fingertips. As thunder cracked in the distance, the air thickened with urgency, the world pushing her toward a reckoning. I won't run anymore, she declared, her voice clear. I'll face it. Whatever this truth entails, I'm ready. Are you sure? Betty's voice was hesitant yet hopeful, revealing her maternal instinct in seeking safety for her daughter. I need to know everything about him. About us, Jess said, determination lining her words. This is my life. I want to shape my story, my truth. Her father stepped closer, vulnerability etching into his eyes. Then let us uncover it together. We'll reclaim our story as a family. As Jess nodded, the group of men shifted, their expressions now a mix of wariness and contemplation. The leader stepped forward. Decisions are a two-way street. The moment you align with your father, the past becomes your present. Then let it, Jess replied fiercely. She stepped toward her. Father, hand outstretched, the locket glimmering faintly in the dying light. Together we can rewrite what was broken. The leader exchanged glances with his men, uncertainty racing through their ranks. And for a fleeting second, Jess felt the world shift. The tumultuous echoes from the past would no longer hold her captive. A roar broke through, shattering the stillness surrounding them. But Jess stood firm, entwined in the warmth of her family, ready to face whatever storm was about to break. She could feel it in her bones, the power of truth surged within her, and she was finally free to write her own story. With the locket glowing, Jess took a step forward, her heart pounding with purpose. Let us take back our lives. As they all moved into the unknown, the shadows no longer seemed so daunting. They were now armed with the strength of truth and the promise of a new beginning. As Jess walked forward, she felt the warmth of hope filling the air, ready to embrace everything that awaited them, together. And so, this was not just the end, but a powerful new beginning. Now that you've witnessed this incredible transformation, be part of the journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep us growing. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. We want to hear from you. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation the world needs to know. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Real fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. This is your moment. Let us inspire together.